So recently, I read an article looking at three of the weirdest and most bizarre tactical formations in the world of football. So naturally, I read that article and thought, we need to try this out in Football Manager. So today, we are looking at three of the weirdest formations in the world of football. And we are going to look at these formations with Crystal Palace. They're expected to finish about 13th in the English Premier League. They're kind of a mid-table side. So I think if we see the tactic do really well and we see Crystal Palace go up the leagues, that'll be really interesting. And on the flip side, it has the potential to go really poorly and they could potentially get relegated or be in a relegation battle. So I think Crystal Palace will be a nice way to look at how these tactical formations might do, as opposed to choosing a team like Man City who could probably make just about any tactic work. So of course, we're going to take a look at the league, but we're going to structure this video by going through each tactic individually, and then we're going to play a game with the tactic, and then we're going to simulate till the end of the season to see how that tactic does in the league. So we'll look to see how Crystal Palace does. We'll look at some of the team stats to get an idea of how the tactic actually performed. So with that, let's get into our first tactic. And our first tactic is the 3-3-1-3, popularized by Marcelo Bielsa with Chile. So this is what the tactic looks like. It's essentially a very high pressing tactic, but we have three center backs, three kind of defensive mid/wingback players, a playmaker in the middle, either advanced or roaming, and then essentially three up top. So we have two inside forwards and an advanced forward on attack. And we're choosing this as a positive formation. We're looking to be very direct, very high tempo. Of course, we are kind of looking to play out of the back. And this is a high pressing tactic. So we're going with higher lines. We're triggering the press. We're going with a very attacking tactic. So this is a really attacking tactic, but it still has players defensively. So I think this is going to be a really interesting tactic within the match engine. I like the numbers in the back. I think there's some support going forward. I think this could perform really well. So this is the 3-3-1-3 tactic. So for all of these tactics, but beginning with the 3-3-1-3, we are going to come back for this match here against Bournemouth. And I wanted to come here to give the time to develop some tactical familiarity, but also give the opportunity for kind of a more even game and a chance to win it. Brighton and United are good teams. I think those are tough matches to go up against. Brentford is very winnable, but I think Bournemouth at home is a good opportunity to see what these tactics will look like in the match engine. So that being said, this is the 3-3-1-3 tactic. We are going to go forward to that match against Bournemouth, and then we are going to look at playing this tactic in that game. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to skip straight to the match. We're going to do that now. All right, so we are starting off again with the 3-3-1-3 formation. And we are coming up against Bournemouth today, playing their 4-2-3-1. Let's get into the action. Eze gets into the box. Does he find the back of the net? Oh, what an opportunity! Oh, if we could have found the correct cutback, that could have been a goal right off the kickoff. Could have been a flying start for the 3-3-1-3. It's into the back post. Jordan Ayew, I can't believe he's missed. All right, Bournemouth with an attack here. It goes into Kluivert. And it's over the bar. Honestly, a decent opportunity, but still well-ish defended. Bournemouth with another opportunity here. It goes to Aarons. It's well won by Mitchell. What are you doing? You've just won the ball. And he's giving it up immediately. It goes into Kluivert. Falls back to Cook. And it's over the bar. Well saved by Sam Johnston. But potentially here an opportunity for Crystal Palace with their 3-3-1-3 to get back into things. It's a bit of a defensive formation. I think it leaves the team a little bit light up top. A lot of pressure on the wingbacks to get forward, get crosses as it falls to Edouard, and it is over the bar. Late chance in the first half off of the corner. The ball swung in. It falls. And it's a goal for Nathaniel Klein. Speaking of one of those winbacks, he finds the back of the net, a deflected effort that goes in. It falls to Nathaniel Klein, and it's 1-0 Crystal Palace right at the end of the first half. All right, a decent first half performance from Crystal Palace with obviously one of our bizarre formations. But Bournemouth will look with the 4-2-3-1 to capitalize again and see if they can get back into the match. Eze looking to take the ball forward, which he does very well, progressing the ball upward nicely, but a poor ball. That is, it seems like an issue with this formation is there's not always numbers forward. There's a lot of pressure on someone like Decore and Eze to beat players one-on-one, but it is crossed in. It'll find IU, like not a whole lot of numbers in the box at the moment, just by the nature of the formation, but it is defensively decent shot there, but it is defensively solid just from the numbers on the back. Like Bournemouth haven't really had a whole lot of chances. We can see that a lot of players in the back are playing well. I think it would benefit from maybe these two being offset. So Lerma moving to a ball winning midfielder here and Decore playing here and maybe being something more like a center mid on attack just to give more attacking impetus as they look to play the ball around the back. This is where the numbers are for Crystal Palace, and that's where it's won. It's won in the middle of the pitch. Can we break out, find a ball over the top? And again, that's the issue. It's difficult to break out. Like winning the ball here, where it's been won again, is absolutely a strength of this formation. But it's got to go through the attacking midfielders to get up. You need a ball carrier like Eze, who's very special in that way, to be able to carry the ball forward and progress the ball up the field. As Bournemouth take a long shot that is over the bar. Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on someone like Eze or even IU on the other side. But if you have quick players there who are good dribblers, I think that helps out this formation quite a lot. As it finds IU, is he onside? Oh, I'm not sure. He looked like he might have been off. It was a great pass in from, I believe, Jefferson Lerma. And it's going to go to VAR. Is it going to be a 2-0 win? Oh, it's a 1-0 still. Bournemouth still in with a chance, and he is offsides. Neto is going forward. A dramatic ending before we continue to talk about what's happening in the match. It goes into the box. Well cleared. It falls to Dango. Mefem. He takes the shot, and it's wide. That should seal it for Crystal Palace. Again, we've seen the strength. There's a lot of bodies in here. There's a lot of bodies in the middle where possession can be won because it's really clogged up, but it can be difficult for the forwards just because there's not a whole lot of support, a lot of pressure on someone like Eze and the wingbacks to get around and support. And nearly a goal at the end, but that's the match. 1-0 win for Crystal Palace. That is the 3-3-1-3 formation. All right, so post-match, we have now simulated to the end of the season. We are on May 31st, 2024 at the end of the season. Let's see how the 3-3-1-3 formation did. Looking at the English Premier Division standings, let's go to stages. Whoa! 8th place and 71 goals. Wow! This was a phenomenal tactic and only 9 losses. So Crystal Palace, let's look. Among the highest scorers in the division, allowed goals very mid-table, but overall 8th place. That's phenomenal. Looking throughout the season, they ended up being a kind of mid-table top half team. This tactic ended up working really well. I am curious to see how some of the players did, notably Edouard up top. How did he do? 11 goal. He was okay. So who were the star players? 12 goals from Eze. What about Jordan Ayew? I mean, I don't know if anyone was playing amazingly well. Did Klein do well at wingback? We saw those wingbacks were really important. Mitchell with 9 assists. But the team performed so well. Look at that run. So let's go back to beginning of the season, a bit of a rough start until that Bournemouth game. And even then, really rough start. But things turned around once we got to Tottenham here, and the second half of the season was just brilliant. Wow, the turnaround that this tactic had was phenomenal. So again, looking through some of the team stats here. So a lot of goals from Crystal Palace. Let's look at possession. I don't see anything else here. Why don't we go to the more team detailed stuff? So average possession, mid-table. I mean, it ended up being kind of a counter-attacking tactic. We're not super surprised there, but let's look at things like XG. So let's see, expected goals for, really high expected goals for. I think this is where the tactic did really well, is having an awesome expected goals for. Expected goals against, right about mid-table, exactly what we saw. So, all things considered, the 3-3-1-3 we're seeing here was kind of a counter-attacking, less possession, but high pressing counter-attacking tactic that ended up working pretty well. Well, that's the 3-3-1-3 formation. I think it worked fantastically well. Yeah, it looks a little bit weird, but it ended up being really effective. Definitely give this one a try. All right, and now we move into our second weird slash bizarre tactic, and we are looking at a 3-6-1 formation. Also, maybe a 5-2-2-1 or a 5-4-1, but this was described as the 3-6-1 formation that was used by Australia in the 2006 World Cup. And I gotta say, I love this formation. I think this formation is awesome. I think it's going to be really effective in the match engine. We've seen that the box type formation works. I think we've seen Work This Space and Park to Prem use a similar tactic to a lot of effectiveness. So I think this is going to work really well. I think this is going to get the best out of Avera Eze. So I think this is going to be really good. So this is what the tactic looks like. Again, I think the wingbacks are going to be the most important aspect of this formation. They're going to have the responsibility to bomb up the width. They're going to provide the width in the tactic. So I think they'll be really important. But I really like this tactic. So we're going with a balanced mentality because that's kind of what Australia was using in that World Cup. But we're looking to be a little bit more direct, high tempo, still playing out of the back a little bit, but we are going with the higher defensive line. And I think the most important thing for this tactic is we have numbers in the middle here. We are looking to trap inside. I think that's going to be a huge part of this tactic. We want to funnel it into these areas. This is where they're going to win the ball. This is where the ball winning midfielder especially could be really important. So again, we're at the beginning of the season. We're going to give some time to train some tactical familiarity, and we will be back for the home match against Bournemouth to see what this actually might look like in the match engine. So again, this is what the tactic looks like. We are going to go straight into the Bournemouth match. So I'm going to continue forward, and we will see you directly in that match. And then directly afterwards, we will go to the end of the season and see how this tactic performed. I've got really high hopes for this one. All right, we are underway for our 4-6-1 against Bournemouth, of course. I love this formation. I think it's an awesome formation. I absolutely love the box in the middle. I think this is a great formation for this match engine, and I am excited to see what this is going to look like in game. So Bournemouth once again playing a 4-2-3-1, just as we saw in the previous match, but we continue with our flurry of chances in this game as it falls to Kluivert, and Kluivert scores, and I feel like that should have been tackled. Like, there should have been someone getting in there. It looked like he megged someone or just straight up went through them. I'm curious to see what that looked like again. But good combination down here. And what happened there? I don't know who that is, but they should have stopped him. They were in position, but it ended up just being poor tackling. But we are underway again, and a flurry of chances. I mean, it's been 10 minutes into the game, and it's just been non-stop action. We are on extended highlights, but it's played out wide to Munoz. Oh, I think he needs to go down the line here. I think that's where it was open. That's all right. Patient build-up play from Crystal Palace. Oh, he's got to look forward there, but it's worked out eventually to Mitchell. I think there was an opportunity to get the ball in earlier. It falls to Will Hughes. Can he tie things up? It's off the bar, and Eze finds the back of the net. Is he offsides? I can't tell if the flag is up. The flag is not up. We are back 1-1. It was well worked in, and Eze with the goal. But the ball's played out wide to Eze. There are so many overloads on the width. I think we're seeing that nicely. Oh, that was an opportunity. I think that was Eduard. He definitely had an opportunity to get the shot off, but it was well tackled by the Bournemouth defender. Already tons of XG coming from this formation. If we go back to the Crystal Palace and what it looks like, already 2.3 XG and amazing possession. Looking at this, if you're a possession-based side or if you feel like you're the better team, this looks like a good formation. It's created a lot of chances, it's creating high XG, and it's got tons of possession. And as I say that, we move into a corner highlight. Will Hughes to stick the ball into the box. He goes for the near post. Oh, and Decore with the bike attempt. What a goal that would have been. And as we move towards halftime here, I'm just going to pause it real quick. I think it's crazy to see the differences in this tactic compared to the previous one. 71% possession, almost 2.5 XG, way more shots. We are seeing a much different tactic than what we looked at previously. One high up the pitch by Munoz, and this is always open. Those wingbacks are always open. Tariq Mitchell gets around the edge. He floats it into the back post. Ojuan Eduard unable to find the back of the net. But the two complete wingbacks on either side are absolutely having a game. As we look to move forward again, Eduard playing it through to Ayu. This is the chance. That's a horrible finish. All right. Well won by Mateta. It falls to Jefferson Lerma. He finds Ayu. It should really be a great opportunity here. It finds Munoz. It's into the box. Mateta scores. No one's offsides. It is 2-1 Crystal Palace. Those wingbacks, those complete wingbacks are absolute dynamite in this tactic. And an opportunity here for Bournemouth to potentially steal something from the match. It falls to... Oh, is it a pen? Oh, that's going to be so disappointing to spoil the game. Oh, just a poor pen from an opportunity that was kind of nothing. Up steps Favre. What a save by Sam Johnstone to keep the potential win for Crystal Palace at this stage. And a little bit of a bizarre formation, but I think this works fantastically well. We're going to call it a 3-6-1, but I love the 3-6-1. This was awesome. An absolutely fantastic performance from Crystal Palace. Again, nearly 4 XG, 17 shots, 69% possession, and fantastic play from the wingbacks. This formation is loads of fun. Welcome back. We are at the end of the season now. Again, to familiarize ourselves with the tactic, we are looking at that 3-6-1 tactic. So how did we do in the league? Looking at our stages, 9th place. This tactic worked really well too. This was a feast or famine tactic. 18 wins and 15 losses. There were not many draws. This was either a win or a loss tactic. But 59 points, 59 goals, 54 assists. It was a middling tactic, but I think Crystal Palace definitely overperformed. We were 1 place lower than the 3-3-1-3 and slightly less points. But I'd say this was on par with the previous tactic. Let's look at the schedule and see what happened. A good start to the season, good middle of the season. I think this tactic was definitely more consistent, but definitely a super feast or famine. So the 3-3-1-3 was kind of poor in the beginning and better at the end. This tactic, though, was pretty good throughout the season. It was just they either won or they lost is clearly what looked like what happened. All right, let's see how some of the important players did. So I'm curious, how did Eduard do? 23 goals. This tactic got goals for our forward. What a phenomenal season. What about Eze? 10 goals. I'll tell you what, the forward players performing much better with this tactic, I think. A higher average rating for Jordan Ayew. I'm curious to see Munoz. 6.75. Not great. What about Mitchell? How did he do? 6.9. I think they're the most important parts of this tactic, but they're not maybe super familiar as complete wingbacks. Like, I imagine if you did this with Hakimi and Alphonso Davies, they would go nuts on the complete wingback roles. But overall, looking at this tactic, I think it was super successful. The last thing we want to do is we actually want to go to our team detailed stats and see what things look like. A lot more possession, 51%. So this means that Crystal Palace became kind of a possession-based team. We absolutely love to see that. Let's look at expected goals. About in the middle for expected goals, so not a whole lot there. And how did we look defending? Let's look at the expected goals allowed, if I can find that. Expected goals against, here we go. There. So overall, it ended up being kind of an average tactic for Crystal Palace. They did overperform. I do wonder if maybe then, thinking about that, given the possession-based nature of this tactic, which is interesting actually if you think about it, because I don't think it was super, like, it's interesting that this was possession-based in the match engine. It must be, because the other one, I mean, we had the same instructions. I'm interested to see that this ended up being a more possession tactic, because I would have thought it would have been set up a little bit differently. But I think just the numbers in midfield must have helped with that. I imagine if you did this with a team like Man City, you would be really, really dominant. I feel like this is a tactic that's better for better teams than it is for worse teams. But overall, given how Crystal Palace performed, I think this worked really well. I love this tactic. This is one to definitely give a go. And our final kind of bizarre tactic is a 4-3-2-1. We are looking at the Christmas tree tactic, which has been used in a number of different scenarios. I actually used the 4-3-2-1 tactic fairly recently when I took over Tromsø in a kind of Christmas themed save. But this is a 4-3-2-1, a triangle Christmas tree type tactic. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think this is a great tactic. I don't like the formation. I don't like the tactic a whole lot. This is one that I prefer to be used in a lower league tactic because essentially you end up with a block of 7 and then an attacking trident. That tends to work better in lower leagues with a less possession-based game and worse teams. I worry about this being used in the English Premier League, though. And the reason for that is there's a lot of space out on the width. Especially in a 4-5-1 type formation, I think the fullbacks end up getting really isolated, especially if they have overlapping wingbacks. The other reason I'm not a huge fan of this tactic is this space in here. So these guys are obviously a little bit more attacking. Maybe it would be better if we put one of them on support, but there tends to be a lot of space in the middle. A playmaker in this area tends to have some time and space. They can suck people in and then disperse it out wide. So that worries me a little bit, but going a little bit more in depth into the 4-3-2-1 here, we're going with kind of slightly more direct passing. We're going to look to play through the middle here, as that seems to be the common theme based on the article I read of what's happening in these tactics. I don't know if I would necessarily play with that on, but we're going off against kind of what I was reading about earlier. We are looking to, of course, counter and counter press, but otherwise, this isn't a really possession-based tactic. It tends to have middle lines, and it is once again looking to trap inside, especially with these 3 defensive mids. They're going to be the most important players in this tactic. If this area is strong, these 5 players, then the tactic is strong. They will need to be the force of this tactic. So once again, we have our final tactic. Of course, we will be coming back for the Bournemouth game. We're going to train some tactical familiarity. We are going to get things going, and we will go directly into the match. I will see you all there. Honestly, I don't think the 4-3-2-1 is that bizarre of a tactic, but I do like it as kind of like a Christmas tree tactic. I think it looks like a tree or a triangle. So in that sense, it's a little bit weird, but we are under the way. 4-3-2-1 Christmas tree tactic. Let's see what it looks like in the match engine. The problem that I have with the 4-3-2-1 is I think it's defensively solid, but it just leaves a lot of room in the middle of the pitch. And I'm curious to see if we see that in the match engine as Will Hughes swings the ball in. It falls to, oh, it's a pen. Oh, an early pen for Crystal Palace. I don't know what that says about the tactic as it came from a corner, and we are going to have a long VAR review. Look at the referee just jogging over there. All right, let's see the decision. He comes out, and it is a pen. Thomas Bramall awards the penalty. Potentially an early goal here for Crystal Palace. Who's going to step up? It is Eduard. He shoots. He scores 1-0 Crystal Palace. I don't know what that says about the tactic, but still need to see the goal. Talking about the tactic again, we just see a lot of space here in the middle. So if you got like a deep lying playmaker, they can run the pitch from there, I think. Just in between the attacking mids and the defensive mids, because there's three defensive mids, and I think that's the key position, as I previously mentioned, for this tactic, as they're kind of running the show, and essentially you just have a block at 7. So at this level, where someone like Tyler Adams could potentially pick you apart, I think it maybe doesn't work as well. But if you're in the lower leagues, as it's a decent save by Henderson there, but if you're in the lower leagues where having kind of a block of 7 to be defensively solid, and then if you have 3 players up top you trust, I think this is a better lower league tactic than it is in something like the Premier League, La Liga, so on and so forth. But this could be a good counter-attacking tactic. Let's see what it's got. It falls to Eze. Eze's in behind. Eze shoots. Eze scores. A brilliant counter-attacking move from Crystal Palace. It's a quick and direct tactic. We saw that here as we went straight up the middle. Eze beating his man with a brilliant piece of skill and finds the back of the net. 2-0. All right, a little halftime check-in on the tactic. Again, most of the possession for Bournemouth, but most of that XG is coming from the pen. So really, I think Bournemouth has been the better side. The 2 opportunities for Crystal Palace have led to the 2-0 lead. So let's see what the second half might have in store. All right, it falls to Mateta. Honestly, this 4-3-2-1 is kind of like an anti-football tactic from what we're seeing so far. It might be better if you're playing against better teams. To hopefully stifle them and then look to play on the counter. That being said, Bournemouth with an opportunity here to attack. They've broken that 3-man defensive mid, but again, we got numbers in the back. We just have a block of 7, essentially. That's just very difficult to get past. Mateta with the ball. He goes on the outside. Can he find the right cross? It's a great cross. Falls to Ayew. Decent save from Neto. All right. This is where you would expect Bournemouth to be able to play out of the back. Again, it's these 2 players in here with all this space, but they're having trouble getting the ball past that point because of the block of 7. And again, that block of 7, Decore wins it. Quick counter attack. Less so. All right. Oh, great ball into Hughes. Mateta! What an opportunity that could have been. Playing it around quite nicely. Bournemouth's not really pressing very high, playing a bit of a mid-block. I wonder if this would be a little bit more difficult against a higher pressing team, given that there's less numbers up here. But the mid-block making it a little bit easier for Crystal Palace to possess at the moment. Lerma to play the ball in behind to Ayew. That should be a goal, and it's 3-0. I mean, this is the best scoreline. I don't feel like it's been the best performance, but absolutely, this is the best scoreline of the 3 formations. All right, as we end the match, it actually ended up being more possession for Crystal Palace, nearly 2 XG, but 0.75 of that coming from the pen. But as we enter the end of the match here, overall, a solid performance from Crystal Palace it ended up being. Final score 3-0, 2 XG. Again, a lot of that though coming from the goal. 12 shots, a decent amount of possession. I wonder if the balance of the game helped this tactic out a little bit. If we didn't get the pen early, I do think Bournemouth were the better side at that time. But it didn't allow much XG, and it ended up being the best scoreline of the 3 formations. And I will say, that has surprised me a lot. So after a surprising victory against Bournemouth, how did Crystal Palace fare for the rest of the season? Not too well. Crystal Palace got relegated. on goal differential on the final day of the season. -25 goal differential for Wolves, -26 goal differential for Crystal Palace after finishing in the exact same position. You guys might be able to see that better here actually. So scrolling down, same number of points, but better goal differential for Wolves. A heartbreaking season for the 4-2-3-1 formation, excuse me. So what did that look like schedule-wise? Let's go all the way up. Torrid start to the season. That match against Bournemouth was actually the only win, and then it was terrible. My word. We didn't win another Premier Division game until January 30th after the new year. And then it just continued to be terrible. A late run at the end of the season ended up being the last hope. This tactic performed horribly. So what was wrong with the tactic? Let's look at our team detailed here. So possession-wise, almost no possession. No possession happening there. I mean, 41% possession. You're not going to win in the Premier League with 41% possession. The second lowest expected goals, 37 and in 19th place. Wow, this performed horribly. And then expected goals against. Wow. Oh, no. It was terrible for expected goals against. Yep. So this tactic was bad in about every single way we would not want it to be bad. Just poor ratings all around. Let's see how Edouard did. 6 goals. Yeah, I mean, one of the previous tactics had 23 goals for him. Eze was poor. This didn't get the best out of the best players. 6 goals for Jordan Ayew. I mean, where it was really important was here, but none of these players playing well. I don't know if this at this level, the 4-3-2-1 Christmas tree is good. Again, I've had success with this in the lower leagues, but at this level, it just doesn't seem to work as well. All right, well, those were all the tactics. I'm going to leave here with my favorite of the bunch. I love this 3-6-1. This is something I'm definitely going to want to try on my own at some point. I think this is fantastic. It didn't perform the best. The 3-3-1-3 was the best. The 4-3-2-1 was kind of terrible. But I think there's something about this that I love. I think it's the most fun. I love the box concept in the midfield. Of all the three kind of bizarre, weird tactics we looked at today, I think this was my favorite. But on that note, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Just a fun little tactical experiment, I guess, just looking to see how some of these would perform. But this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all very soon. Bye!